This next one is interesting. He's talking about the wise one now. How when the wise person undergoes difficult times thrown at him by nature, how he leads himself, how he conducts himself. What bhikkhus is the way of undertaking things that is painful now and ripens in the future as pleasure. Here bhikkhus, someone in pain and grief abstains from killing living beings, and he experiences pain and grief that have abstention from killing living beings as condition. Somebody is in a difficult situation, maybe with a spider in the house. It's causing a lot of pain and grief to him, but he still does his best to not kill the spider, yet put it in a yogurt box and let it out in the backyard. He may have to go through a lot of gymnastics, jumping around the couch, around the TV, on the dining table, just to catch that spider and put it in the box instead of killing him. So he goes through his own difficulty, but he abstains from killing another living being. So you see, he does experience some pain and grief, and this pain and grief is because he has chosen not to kill it. In pain and grief, he abstains from taking what is not given, and he experiences pain and grief that have abstention from taking what is not given as condition. Somebody might be in a difficult situation, and yet he might abstain from stealing. Even if he is experiencing financial troubles, he decides, no, I will not steal. He goes through pain and grief for not stealing, otherwise he would have got that money instantly and put an end to his grief, but he chooses to do the right thing. Such a person obviously has pleasure stored for him in future just by this action. In pain and grief, he abstains from misconduct in sensual pleasures, and he experiences pain and grief that have abstention from sensual pleasures as condition. Someone who is addicted might be going through the withdrawal symptoms, and that itself is a painful situation to be in. And yet he decides that he would not misconduct himself. He would not give in to a sensual pleasure, but go through the withdrawal symptoms. Such a person definitely has pleasure stored in future for him. Someone in pain and grief abstains from speaking falsehood. He experiences pain and grief that have abstention from speaking falsehood as condition. Means you are in a difficult situation and you could have got out of that difficult situation by choosing to lie, by choosing falsehood. But you decided, no, it's okay if this difficult situation continues, but I will not lie. Such a person, for him the difficult situation might continue for a little while, but he surely has pleasure stored for future just by choosing to not lie. Someone in pain and grief abstains from speaking maliciously, and he experiences pain and grief that have abstention from speaking maliciously as condition. Again, somebody could be in the middle of an argument with somebody else and could speak maliciously and get out of that argument. That would have been an end to his current pain. But he decides that he will not speak maliciously, come what may, even if the pain continues. And such a person will definitely have pleasure stored in future for him just by this action, because he chose not to do the wrong. When you choose not to do the wrong, a flowering of purity happens from within. You feel a sense of power that nobody can take away from you. And that power of purity brings a lot of pleasantness in meditation in future. You have a very restful mind because you feel so pure inside. You just close your eyes and you go into silence. The mind comes to a still lake-like position. A person who does not abstain from all this negativity cannot experience this peaceful calmness. He will always be running from one course to another course, looking for one technique or another technique where his mind becomes a little restful, a little calm, where the thoughts and emotions don't bother him so much, where he is at peace. But he will not be able to find peace in those techniques because his own inner environment is impure. A person who chooses to not do wrong, even if the situation is painful, such a person sleeps like a baby. Such a person rests like a yogi. And such a person easily attains the highest truth. Reality check time again. Do you qualify to attain the highest truth easily? Someone in pain and grief abstains from speaking harshly, and he experiences pain and grief that have abstention from speaking harshly as condition. Similar example, if you are in an argument and you choose not to speak harshly, even though you know that just by raising the tone from softness to harshness will get you out of the situation, you choose to be in the situation, let the pain be there, but not to speak harshly, then in future you have pleasure in store for you. Someone in pain and grief abstains from gossiping, and he experiences pain and grief that have abstention from gossiping as condition. You are in a situation where if you talk about the other person, that would clarify someone's doubt, but you choose that gossiping will not really let you rest at peace. And you choose that let the cloud of doubt remain, even if it is painful to me, but I will not choose to gossip. Then you have taken the highway. Here, bhikkhus, someone in pain and grief abstains from covetousness, and he experiences pain and grief that have abstention from covetousness as condition. So you decide, no, I am not going to even in my mind covet something else that belongs to somebody else. You have a pure inner environment and meditation stored as fruit for you in future. Not just plain meditation, but a very restful, quiet mind, a happy mind stored for you in future. Someone in pain and grief abstains from a mind of ill will. He experiences pain and grief that have abstention from ill will as condition. So if one decides that come what may, I will not indulge in ill will. Even if you think bad about me, it doesn't matter. I will not think bad about you. Because it is not about you, but it is about my inner environment. It is about maintaining the purity of my mind. Because only a pure mind can instantly go into meditation. Only a pure mind can be very quiet and restful. An impure mind is constantly restless, like a bubbling volcano. And such a person is always agitated, always unhappy. And there is always a lot of sorrow for him in store. But a person who chooses that he will not indulge in ill will, even if the other person is indulging in ill will for him, he always has a happy mind. You choose. You want a happy mind or a sorrowful mind. Choice is yours. Here, because someone in pain and grief holds onto the right view and he experiences pain and grief that have right view as condition. This can also be a situation where you are holding onto the right view and others are giving you a hard time because you're holding on to the right view. You can see the truth, you know this is right, and there is absolutely nothing wrong in this. But there are others who don't have the right view, they have the wrong view, and they are giving you a hard time because you are holding on to your right view. So you will go through pain, you will go through grief because you have to deal with these people around you. And you will go through pain and grief even more because you are holding on to your right view. But you do not give in to them. You still hold on to your right view. What happens? In future, you have stored pleasure for yourself. You will be the one who will be rewarded with a restful mind because you only held on to the right view and avoided the wrong view at any cost. At any cost. On the dissolution of the body, after death, he reappears in a happy destination, even in the heavenly world. This is called the way of undertaking things that is painful now and ripens in the future as pleasure. You decide what destination appeals to you. If a happy destination appeals to you, it's okay to go through a little bit of pain and grief, but stick to that which is right. Stick to the wholesome. This itself will reward you in the long run. What bhikkhus is the way of undertaking things that is pleasant now and ripens in the future as pleasure. Here, bhikkhus, someone in pleasure and joy abstains from killing living beings and he experiences pleasure and joy that have abstention from killing living beings as condition. Again, the wise one always feels very joyful when he maintains his inner pure environment. So when you abstain from doing anything wrong, you will feel a little blossoming as if a little petal opens up. Just a little petal opening up. And that blossoming feeling inside and the feeling of peace and relaxation. This slow opening of the petals of the inner purity help your meditation become more and more stronger. And slowly you see yourself slipping away into samadhi very easily, very naturally, without even making an attempt to get there. In pleasure and joy, he abstains from taking what is not given. And he experiences pleasure and joy that have abstention from when everything is fine. It's easier to make this decision that I will not steal, I will not take what is not given to me. And when anyway you are in a pleasant state of mind, it's very easy to experience that beautiful, pure feeling expanding inside you. And that feeling of purity comes only because of your decision to abstain from taking what is not given to you. In pleasure and joy, he abstains from misconduct in sensual pleasures. And he experiences and joy that have abstention from misconduct in sensual pleasures as condition. So when you abstain from misconduct in sensual pleasures, when you are already in a state of a happy mind, you will very easily feel the power within. Oh, I could have slipped. I could have done wrong, but I decided not to. And you feel a little more powerful inside. In pleasure and joy, he abstains from speaking falsehood. And he experiences pleasure and joy that have abstention from speaking falsehood as condition. When you don't lie, even when you have the opportunity to lie, you feel very good about yourself. That good feeling is that which increases your joy. Yes, simply because it is increasing the purity in the inner environment. In pleasure and joy, he abstains from speaking maliciously. And he experiences pleasure and joy that have abstention from speaking maliciously as condition. Many times people speak maliciously even when they are very happy. It's because when they are very happy, they are so overjoyed that they lack sensitivity. And when you lack sensitivity, you might condemn another person as a joke, just for fun, just casually. Yes? Even when you do certain things just for fun, it is speaking maliciously. You know what I'm talking about, right? One who abstains from doing this in joy and pleasure, his joy and pleasure is even doubled. Even though he got an opportunity to say something, he abstained from speaking so. In pleasure and joy, he abstains from speaking harshly. And he experiences pleasure and joy that have abstention from speaking harshly as condition. Again, many people can land up speaking harshly even in a state of joy because they are so happy they lose sensitivity again. When one chooses not to speak harshly or to be very vigilant about the words he chooses to use, there is an inner power, and that power only leads to more pleasure in the future. In pleasure and joy, he abstains from gossiping, and he experiences pleasure and joy that have abstention from gossiping as condition. Again, when you're very happy, you don't realize what you say. And it's very easy to slip into gossip when you are sitting amongst very happy people. Yes? In that moment, the wise one chooses his words and speaks only when required. This itself gives him a sense of purity, and that purity leads to pleasure in future. So, his abstention from gossip was the condition for his future pleasure. In pleasure and joy, he abstains from covetousness, and he experiences pleasure and joy that have abstention from covetousness as condition. Again, choosing not to get lured by the senses, wanting or wishing for something that is not mine. When one chooses wisely, one experiences joy. In pleasure and joy, he abstains from having a mind of ill will, and he experiences pleasure and joy that have abstention from ill will as condition. Again, given the opportunity of a happy group all sitting and talking with each other, it is very easy for some people to slip into talking bad about someone else or slipping into ill will. A person who not only restricts his lips from indulging into ill will, but who restricts even his thoughts from abstaining from ill will, such a person is a powerhouse. He is the powerhouse of silence. He knows how to use his words as tools, and his words do not use him. In short, he is the master of his words and not a slave of his words. Are you a master of your words or a slave? In pleasure and joy, he holds right view, and he experiences pleasure and joy that have right view as condition. You just hold on to the right view. In pleasant company, in a lot of pleasure, in a lot of joy, it is very easy to lose the right view and slip into the wrong view. The one who is a powerhouse of silence also understands that he can maintain his power of silence only through the right view. The moment he slips into the wrong view, there is no more silence left, and the powerhouse comes crumbling to the ground. Have you learned the skill of maintaining the right view, come what may? On the dissolution of the body, after death, he reappears in a happy destination, even in the heavenly world. This is called the way of undertaking things that is pleasant now and ripens in the future as pleasure.